My brothers, my sisters, I hope you had, appropriately enough, a rest-filled Labor Day weekend. This past Sunday was the beginning of the 23rd week of the year, and the Book of Wisdom was proclaimed in our hearing. And the beginning of the passage that we heard is this: who can conceive what the Lord intends? Who can conceive what the Lord intends? I can't, you can't. And so oftentimes what that does is it creates doubt, question, wonder, purposefulness, and we begin to second guess our faith. We begin to wonder why it is I'm doing all of this, why it is I go to church, why it is I try to be a good Christian, because I don't know. I don't know what the Lord intends. This past Saturday, Mother Teresa, as we know her, is now Saint Teresa of Calcutta. And whereas we know Saint Teresa for all of her work among the poor, for her joyful attitude, for her zeal, for her prayerfulness, for all of what we have given her public accolade for, what we don't know until her memoirs were published is this: that especially in about the last 50 years of her life, Saint Teresa of Calcutta was a great doubter. She would question why it is the Lord forsake her, why it is the Lord turned his back upon her, why it is the Lord was not embracing her. So in the midst of all of this public accolade, in the midst of all of this grand applause, in the midst of the recognition she received for all of her great work, the more that increased, she seemingly felt more lost in relationship to the Lord. The more she doubted, because she could not conceive what the Lord intended. Yet she was faithful. And by faithful, she took up the cross, followed him, and remained a disciple. She never overcame that darkness, but she remained faithful through it. She didn't walk away because of the darkness. She was willing to trust him through the darkness. My brothers and my sisters, what we need to ask ourselves is that same type of a question. When things get dark, when we don't know what the Lord intends, when I don't know why I'm going through what I'm going through in my life, I have two options. I can either run, walk, and discredit faith in the Lord, or I can place my trust and grapple and wring my hands and wonder, but remain faithful. It seems to me that a significant component of Teresa's saintliness is not just in her work with the poor, though that is absolutely saintly, not just in her zealous and joyful spirit, though that is saintly, not in all the charitable works that she did, though that is saintly. Maybe it's in the doubt, in her ability to remain faithful in the doubt, that we see the saint emerge. My sisters and my brothers, all of us are called to that same type of holiness. All of us are called to saintliness, which means all of us are called to be faithful in our moments of doubt. Don't turn your back on the Lord. Don't turn your back on your faith. Don't turn your back on your church. Faithful, faithful, faithful. Have a good week.